My phone buzzed during my lunch break. A text from my brother Travis. "I need a new car. Can you cosign?" I typed back instantly, "Keep dreaming." He destroyed my credit 3 years ago when I co-signed for him before, and I was still recovering. Minutes later, my father's message appeared in all capital letters, "Refuse and you are cut off from family events." That same night, I called my mother seeking support, desperately hoping she would understand my side. Instead, her voice turned cold as ice. "Your father is right, Adelaide. You have changed. You are not the daughter I raised anymore." I sat there on my couch, phone pressed to my ear, completely stunned. My mother had always been my closest ally in the family. We talked every Sunday. She knew my struggles. How could she turn on me like this? "Mom, what do you mean I've changed?" My voice cracked. "I'm the same person I've always been." She sighed, that disappointed sound that made me feel like I was 10 years old again. "Travis has been talking to us for months now, Adelaide. He's told us everything. About how you've become obsessed with money. How you look down on the rest of us." My stomach dropped. "What? Mom, that's not true. What did he tell you?" "He said you got a huge promotion last year. A massive raise. That you're making 6 figures now, but you won't help your own brother when he's struggling." Her words came out clipped, rehearsed, like she had been over this conversation in her head many times already. "I got a small cost of living raise, Mom. I make $52,000 a year. I'm not wealthy." I could hear the desperation creeping into my voice. "Travis said you bought a brand new luxury car, a BMW, he said. While he's barely getting by." I looked out my window at my 12-year-old Honda Civic, the paint fading on the hood, a dent in the passenger door from a parking lot incident 2 years ago. "Mom, I drive the same car I bought used when I graduated college. You've seen it 100 times. Well, he also mentioned you've been sending him money every month, but you make him beg for it. You humiliate him." My hands were shaking now. "I send him $200 a month for groceries, because he can never keep a job. I don't make him beg. I just send it automatically." She continued as if I hadn't spoken. "And your father's birthday last month. Travis said you made fun of his health problems in front of everyone, called him weak. I wasn't even at Dad's birthday. I was sick with the flu. I sent a card and called him that evening. This was insane. These were complete lies, and my mother was believing every single one of them." "What about your sister Jenny's graduation? Travis said you told her she wasn't smart enough for college." "Mom, I helped Jenny with her college applications. I proofread her essays. Why would I say that?" There was a long pause. "Why would Travis lie, Adelaide? He's your brother. He loves you." Those words hit me like a physical blow. In my mother's mind, Travis was incapable of deception. He was the baby of the family, the one who could do no wrong. Never mind that he was 28 years old and had never held a job longer than 6 months. Never mind that he had a history of borrowing money and never paying it back. "Mom, 3 years ago I co-signed for a car loan for Travis. He promised he would make the payments. He made exactly 2 payments and then stopped. I had to pay $4,000 to keep my own credit from being destroyed. I'm still paying off the debt from cleaning up his mess. My credit score dropped 130 points. I couldn't buy a house because of it. That was years ago." My mother's voice took on an edge. "People change, Adelaide. You should give him another chance instead of holding grudges. That's what family does. We forgive." "But he hasn't changed, Mom. He still doesn't have a stable job. How is he going to make car payments?" My father's voice suddenly boomed in the background. He must have grabbed the phone. "You listen to me, young lady. You have 24 hours to agree to co-sign for your brother, or you're uninvited from Thanksgiving. We're done coddling your selfish behavior." Thanksgiving was in 3 weeks. My entire family would be there. Aunts, uncles, cousins, grandparents. It was the one time a year everyone gathered. "Dad, I'm not being selfish. I'm protecting myself financially. Travis defaulted on the last loan. That's ancient history. Stop living in the past." His voice was hard, unforgiving. "You know what your real problem is? You've gotten too big for your britches. You think you're better than the rest of us because you have some fancy job. I'm an accountant at a small firm. It's not fancy. You need an attitude adjustment, and you're going to get one." He paused for effect. "We're having a family meeting tomorrow at noon, at Rosie's Diner. Everyone will be there. Your aunts, uncles, cousins. We're all going to sit down and talk about your attitude problem. Travis deserves support from his sister, and we're going to make sure you understand that." My heart was pounding. "A family meeting? About me?" "You've left us no choice," my mother interjected, back on the phone. "Travis has been so hurt by your rejection. He cries about it, Adelaide. Your own brother cries because his sister has abandoned him." I felt like I was in an alternate reality. Travis, who had stolen from me, lied about me, and destroyed my credit, was crying to our parents that I was the villain. "If you don't show up tomorrow," my mother continued, her voice dropping to that quiet, disappointed tone that was somehow worse than yelling, "that tells us everything we need to know about who you've become." The line went dead. They had hung up on me. I sat in my small living room, the phone still in my hand, staring at nothing. My entire family had been turned against me based on lies. And tomorrow, I was going to be ambushed in public, forced to defend myself against accusations I didn't even fully understand yet. I barely slept that night. I kept replaying the conversation, trying to figure out where everything had gone so wrong. I thought about not going to the diner, but I knew that would make everything worse. My family would take my absence as confirmation of every lie Travis had told. So the next morning, I put on my best professional outfit, trying to armor myself with confidence I didn't feel, and drove to Rosie's Diner. The parking lot at Rosie's was packed when I arrived at 11:55. I recognized my uncle's truck, my aunt's minivan, my cousin's sedan. They were all here already, waiting for me. I walked inside, and the hostess didn't even ask where I wanted to sit. She just pointed toward the back section of the restaurant. "Your family's waiting for you, honey." The entire back section had been reserved. 15 people crammed around pushed-together tables. My parents sat at the center, and Travis sat between them like he was the guest of honor at some kind of twisted intervention. He looked up when I entered, and I saw something flicker across his face. Satisfaction, maybe. Or triumph. My Aunt Paula, my father's older sister, stood up as I approached. She was a large woman, with a commanding presence, the self-appointed matriarch of the extended family since my grandmother died. "Adelaide, sit down." She gestured to an empty chair directly across from Travis. Everyone was staring at me. I sat, my purse clutched in my lap like a shield. "We're all here today because we're concerned about you," Aunt Paula began, her voice taking on that syrupy sweet tone people use when they're about to say something cruel. "We've been hearing some very troubling things about your behavior lately, and we wanted to talk to you as a family, because that's what families do. We help each other." My Uncle George, my mother's brother, jumped in. "I heard you refused to help Travis when he needed basic necessities. Food, Adelaide. You wouldn't help him buy food." I opened my mouth to respond, but my cousin Brenda cut me off. "And I heard about your fancy lifestyle. New clothes, expensive restaurants. Meanwhile, your own brother is struggling to make ends meet." "That's not true," I said, but my voice came out weak. "I don't live extravagantly. I live in a one-bedroom apartment, and I pack my lunch for work every day." "Don't lie to us," my father said sharply. "Travis has told us everything. We know about your spending habits." I pulled out my phone with shaking hands. "I can show you my bank statements. I can prove that I'm not living some lavish lifestyle." I opened my banking app and held the phone toward my mother. She glanced at it and looked away. "We're not here to go through your finances, Adelaide. We're here to talk about your attitude toward family." "But that's the whole point," I said, frustration rising in my voice. "Travis is lying about my finances to make me look bad." Travis's face crumpled. Actual tears started rolling down his cheeks. "See? She's making me look like the bad guy again. She always does this." His voice broke with emotion. "I came to my sister for help, and instead of just saying she couldn't do it, she's been attacking me, telling people I'm a liar, trying to turn the family against me." My mother put her arm around Travis, glaring at me. "How dare you make your brother cry? I'm not making him do anything." My voice was too loud now. I could feel other diners turning to look at us. "I'm just trying to explain the truth. 3 years ago, I co-signed for Travis, and he defaulted. It cost me $4,000 and destroyed my credit score. I still can't buy a house because of it. My father slammed his hand on the table, making the silverware rattle. We didn't raise you to be this cruel. Travis made one mistake years ago, and you're punishing him forever. Is that the kind of person you want to be? It wasn't just one mistake, I said, tears of frustration burning in my eyes. He never paid me back. He never apologized. And now he's spreading lies about me to the entire family. Aunt Paula shook her head slowly. Family is more important than money, Adelaide. I'm very disappointed in you. Family forgives, Uncle George added. But you're not showing any forgiveness at all. I looked around the table at all their faces. Not one person looked sympathetic. They had all already decided I was guilty before I even walked in the door. Travis's girlfriend, Kelsey, a woman I had never met before in my life, suddenly spoke up. She was crying too, dabbing at her eyes with a napkin. Travis has been so depressed lately. He talks about his sister all the time, about how much he misses her, about how she used to be so kind and loving. He doesn't understand what changed. I stared at this stranger, this woman who had apparently been given a front row seat to my character assassination. Who are you? I'm Travis's girlfriend. We've been together for 8 months. She sniffled. I hate seeing him so hurt. He's such a good person. He doesn't deserve to be abandoned by his own sister. The word abandoned hit me like a slap. I sent Travis money every month. I answered his calls. I had helped him countless times over the years. But none of that mattered. In this room, I was the villain. I haven't abandoned anyone, I said quietly. Then Travis dropped his bomb. I already told the dealership Adelaide would co-sign. His voice was small, defeated. They're holding a car for me, just a Toyota Camry, nothing fancy. The dealer said if I don't have a co-signer by Friday, I lose my $500 deposit. That's my rent money. I felt the blood drain from my face. You did what? My father leaned forward. Travis told us 2 weeks ago that you already agreed to help him. So now you're backing out? You're making your brother look like a liar to the dealership? I never agreed. My voice came out as a near shout. Several diners at nearby tables were definitely watching now. I didn't even know about this until yesterday when he texted me. Travis looked up, his eyes red and wet. You did agree. We talked about it at Mom's birthday dinner in September. You said we'll see, and I took that as a yes. I remembered that conversation. Travis had mentioned maybe needing help with a car someday, and I had said we'll see, just to get him to change the subject. It was the same non-committal response I always gave him when he asked for money. Saying we'll see is not the same as agreeing to co-sign a loan, I said. But I could see from everyone's faces that they believed Travis's version of events, not mine. My mother's voice was quiet but cut through the noise. Adelaide, if you don't sign by Friday, you're not just hurting Travis. You're making our whole family look bad. What will the dealership think? That we're liars? That our word means nothing? I didn't give my word, I said, but it sounded weak even to my own ears. Aunt Paula stood up. I think we've said what needed to be said. Adelaide, you need to think long and hard about what kind of person you want to be. Family is everything. Without family, what do you have? One by one, my family members stood up and left. They hugged Travis on their way out. They hugged my parents. No one hugged me. No one even looked at me. I sat there alone at the table, surrounded by empty chairs and dirty plates, while the server hovered nearby, looking uncomfortable. I could hear people at other tables whispering. Finally, I stood up and walked out. In the parking lot, I sat in my car and cried. Not gentle tears, but the kind of sobbing that makes your whole body shake. My family believed Travis's lies. All of them. And there was nothing I could say that would change their minds. I drove home in a daze, pulled into my parking spot, and sat there for a long time before I could force myself to go inside. Travis had won. He had turned my entire family against me. And the worst part was, I didn't even fully understand why. What did he have to gain from destroying my reputation? I would find out soon enough. I called in sick to work for the next 2 days. I told my supervisor Linda I had a stomach bug, but really I was too emotionally destroyed to function. I stayed in my apartment, barely eating, replaying the diner scene over and over in my mind. On the second day, I forced myself to do something productive. I needed to understand what I was really dealing with. I needed to see my credit report, to know exactly how much damage Travis's last default had done, and whether it was still affecting me. I ordered my full credit report from all 3 bureaus and settled in to review them when they arrived by email an hour later. That's when I saw it. There were inquiries on my credit report from the past 6 months that I hadn't authorized. Multiple inquiries. Credit card applications from companies I had never contacted. An auto loan inquiry from a dealership I had never visited, dated 2 months ago. A personal loan inquiry from a payday loan company whose name I didn't even recognize. My heart started pounding. This wasn't just old debt from Travis, this was new, this was recent. I called the credit card companies immediately. The first 2 applications had been denied, thank goodness. But the third one made my blood run cold. Yes, Miss Adelaide Patterson. We show you were approved for a card with us 6 months ago, the representative said. Your credit limit is $3,000, and your current balance is $2,800. I never applied for this card, I said, my voice shaking. I've never received a card from you. I don't even know what your company is. Let me pull up your application. There was typing on the other end. It shows here that the card was sent to a P.O. box address, not your home address. Would you like me to read it to you? She read off an address I didn't recognize. I wrote it down. Can you email me the statements for this account? I asked. Of course. They'll be in your inbox within the hour. I hung up and immediately checked the other inquiries. The auto loan inquiry was from a dealership 40 miles from my apartment, in the town where Travis lived. The payday loan inquiry was from a company that operated in his area too. Someone was using my identity, and I had a pretty good idea who. The credit card statements arrived in my email. I opened them with trembling hands. The charges were all at places near Travis's apartment. A gas station 2 blocks from where he lived. A restaurant he had mentioned before. A gaming store, fast food places. Small charges, spread out over months, like someone was being careful not to trigger alerts. But they added up. $2,800 that I would be responsible for if I couldn't prove fraud. I searched through my memory. When could Travis have gotten my personal information? My social security number, my mother's maiden name, my date of birth? Then I remembered. We grew up in the same house. He would have had access to all my personal documents when we were younger. Tax forms left on the kitchen table. Bank statements. My social security card in my mother's filing cabinet. I immediately checked my credit freeze settings online. There was no freeze. I thought I had set one up after Travis's last default, but apparently, I hadn't done it correctly, or it had expired. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold my phone, but I managed to dial my father's number. He answered on the 3rd ring. What do you want? Dad. Travis has been using my identity. He's been applying for credit cards and loans in my name. I have the statements. The charges are all near his apartment. There was a long silence. Then my father laughed. Actually laughed. You're making things up now because you don't want to help your brother? That's low, even for you. I'm not making this up. I have documentation. A credit card I never applied for with almost $3,000 charged on it. Inquiries for loans I never requested. Travis would never do that. You probably forgot you opened that card. You're stressed and confused. Dad, I have the credit card statements right here. The charges are at places 2 blocks from Travis's apartment. A gas station on Maple Street, a restaurant called Giovanni's Pizza. Does Travis live near those places? Another pause. Maybe someone stole your information online. It happens all the time, but blaming Travis without proof is disgusting. I felt my anger rising, replacing the fear. The proof is the statement. The locations match Travis's neighborhood. I don't want to hear any more of these accusations. My father's voice turned hard. If you report this to the police and try to get your brother in trouble over your own mistakes, you're dead to this family. I mean it, Adelaide, dead to us. He hung up. I sat there, staring at my phone. My own father had just threatened to disown me if I reported identity theft. What kind of family was this? But I had no choice. I was going to report it. I had to protect myself. Then my work email notification dinged on my phone. I had been avoiding my email, but something made me check it now. 7 missed calls from Linda, my supervisor. 3 urgent emails asking me to call immediately. My stomach dropped. Something was wrong. I called Linda with shaking hands. "Adelaide, thank God." Linda sounded stressed. "I've been trying to reach you. Something happened." "What's going on?" "Someone called the office yesterday. They claimed to be from a company called Allied Credit Recovery Services. They were looking for you. They said you owed $12,000 in defaulted personal loans. They threatened wage garnishment. They told me you were under investigation for fraud." The room started spinning. "What?" "The caller was really aggressive, Adelaide. He said you were untrustworthy with finances. He implied you had been lying about your financial situation. I had to escalate it to HR because, well, you handle sensitive client accounts. HR needs to talk to you." "Linda, that's not real. It's harassment. I don't have any defaulted loans. Someone is trying to sabotage me." "I believe you," Linda said, and she sounded sincere. "But HR is concerned. Your job requires financial trustworthiness. This looks really bad, even if it's not true. Sharon from HR wants to meet with you Monday morning." "First thing. Can I ask you something? Do you remember anything about the caller? Was it a man or a woman?" "A man. Young-sounding. Very aggressive and rude." "It was Travis. I knew it with absolute certainty. He was trying to destroy not just my credit, but my employment. My entire livelihood." "I'll be there Monday morning," I said quietly. "Adelaide, I'm on your side. But you need to have documentation ready. Proof that this is harassment. HR is going to ask a lot of questions." We hung up and I finally let myself fall apart. I collapsed on my couch and sobbed until I had no tears left. Travis wasn't just refusing to pay back old debts. He was actively destroying my life. Credit fraud, impersonating debt collectors, turning my family against me. And when I tried to defend myself, my own father threatened to cut me off. I had no idea yet, but things were about to get much, much worse. I spent the entire weekend gathering evidence. I printed every credit report, every fraudulent statement, every inquiry I hadn't authorized. I made spreadsheets. I documented every conversation with my family. I was preparing for war. Monday morning, I drove to work early. My stomach was in knots. I had barely eaten in 3 days, and I felt lightheaded, but I needed to get through this HR meeting. Sharon from Human Resources was waiting in a conference room with Linda. Sharon was in her 50s, professional and efficient, with reading glasses hanging from a chain around her neck. "Adelaide, have a seat." Sharon's voice was neutral, giving nothing away. I sat down and placed my folder of documentation on the table in front of me. "I want to start by saying we take these matters very seriously," Sharon began. "We received a call last week from someone claiming you had substantial debts and were under investigation for fraud. Can you explain what's going on?" I took a deep breath. "I'm a victim of harassment related to a family dispute. My brother has been using my identity to open credit accounts. I discovered the fraud last week. The call to this office was part of his campaign to sabotage me." Sharon's eyebrows rose slightly. "That's quite an accusation." "I have documentation." I opened the folder and showed them the credit card statements, the inquiries, the addresses near Travis's apartment. "I'm filing a police report today." Linda leaned forward, looking at the statements. "Adelaide, this is awful. I had no idea." Sharon remained impassive. "This is very concerning, Adelaide. The fact that you're experiencing identity theft is unfortunate, but we need to ensure our employees are financially stable and not vulnerable to compromise. You handle sensitive client financial data." "I understand that," I said. "But I'm the victim here. I'm taking steps to protect myself and press charges against my brother." Sharon folded her hands on the table. "Here's the situation. We've had 2 clients ask questions about the accountant with financial problems. Word has gotten around. Whether or not the debt is legitimate, the appearance of financial instability is a problem for us." I felt panic rising in my chest. "You can't punish me for being a victim of identity theft." "We're not punishing you," Sharon said carefully. "But we need to protect the company's reputation and our clients' confidence." We're going to place you on administrative leave for 2 weeks while we investigate this situation further. It will be unpaid leave. Unpaid? My voice came out as a squeak. I need my paycheck. I have rent due. I can't afford unpaid leave. I'm sorry, but this is necessary. Sharon stood up, signaling the meeting was over. File your police report. Get us documentation that you're resolving this situation. Then, we'll revisit your employment status. Linda gave me an apologetic look as I gathered my things. I walked out of that conference room in a daze. Unpaid leave meant no income for 2 weeks. I had some savings, but not much. This was going to hurt. I drove straight from the office to the police station. I wasn't going to let Travis win. Officer Matthews was a middle-aged man with tired eyes who looked like he had seen everything twice. He took my information and listened to my story with a neutral expression. "Let me pull up the credit card application," he said, typing on his computer. He studied the screen for several minutes. "Okay, I see the application here. It has your name, social security number, mother's maiden name, and date of birth. All correct information. There's also a photocopy of what appears to be your driver's license." "I never submitted that application," I said firmly. "Here's where we have a problem." Officer Matthews turned his screen toward me. "There's an attached document here. It appears to be a notarized authorization letter. It states that you, Adelaide Patterson, gave your brother Travis Patterson permission to use your personal information to build credit as an authorized representative." I stared at the screen. The letter had my signature at the bottom, except it wasn't my signature. It was close, but the capital A was wrong. I always made my A with a specific loop that this signature didn't have. "I never signed this," I said. "That's a forgery. Look at the signature. The A is wrong." Officer Matthews looked closer. "Ma'am, without a professional handwriting analysis, I can't definitively say this is forged. And there's a notary stamp here that looks official. If this authorization is legitimate, then what your brother did isn't theft. It becomes a civil matter, a dispute over whether you gave permission." "But I didn't give permission. I would never authorize him to use my identity." "I believe you," Officer Matthews said, and he sounded genuine. "But legally, this is complicated. The notary stamp, the authorization letter, it muddies the waters. To pursue criminal charges, you'd need to prove the signature is forged, which requires hiring a handwriting expert. That costs money. And you'd need to prove the notary stamp is fake." I felt my hope crumbling. So Travis gets away with it? My suggestion is to treat this as a civil matter. Get a lawyer, sue him for the money, or try to resolve it within your family. He must have seen my face because he added quickly, "I know that's not what you want to hear. What about the fake debt collector who called my employer? That's harassment, isn't it?" "It could be. Do you have proof your brother made that call? A recording? Caller ID showing his number?" I shook my head. "The HR director didn't get that information. Without hard evidence tying your brother to that call, it's your word against his. We can't pursue charges on that either." I left the police station feeling completely defeated. Travis had covered his tracks well. The forged authorization letter, the notary stamp, making the call from an unknown number. He had planned this carefully. I drove home on autopilot, my mind racing. How was I going to pay rent? How was I going to fix my credit? How was I going to prove any of this? When I pulled into my apartment complex, I saw something on my door. A bright yellow paper. I parked and walked over, dread building in my stomach. It was a final notice. Rent past due. But that was impossible. My rent auto-paid from my checking account on the 1st of every month. It had been set up for years. I fumbled with my keys, got inside, and immediately pulled up my bank account on my phone. My checking account was overdrawn, $600 in the negative. I scrolled through the recent transactions with shaking hands. 3 unauthorized electronic withdrawals over the past week, $200 each, all labeled family support services. Someone had drained my account. My rent hadn't paid because there was no money. I called my bank's fraud department immediately. "I need to report unauthorized withdrawals from my account," I told the representative. The woman on the phone was sympathetic as she pulled up my account. "I see 3 withdrawals to family support services. Can you tell me about those?" I didn't authorize them. I've never heard of that company. Let me check how they were authenticated. There was typing. These withdrawals were made through your online banking portal. They were authenticated with your username, password, and correct answers to your security questions. My blood ran cold. How is that possible? It appears someone had access to your login credentials. Do you share your password with anyone? No. Never. But even as I said it, I remembered family gatherings. Travis hanging around while I checked my bank balance on my phone. Travis at Christmas looking over my shoulder while I transferred money to someone. He could have seen my password. He could have heard me answer security questions. I'll file a dispute for you, the representative said. But since the proper security protocols were followed, this is going to be difficult to resolve. The investigation takes 10 business days. In the meantime, we can't reverse the charges. Your account will remain overdrawn. But I need to pay rent. I'm already late. I'm very sorry, ma'am. There's nothing I can do to expedite this. I hung up and stared at the wall. My account was empty. I was on unpaid leave. My rent was overdue. Travis had systematically destroyed every aspect of my financial life. My phone buzzed with a text message. From Travis. Just sign the papers, sis. This all goes away if you help me out. Think about it. He was admitting it. Not directly, but clearly enough. He had done all of this. The identity theft, the account draining, the fake debt collector. All to force me to co-sign for his car. I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw my phone across the room. Instead, I sat on my couch and tried to figure out how I was going to survive the next 2 weeks. I had maybe $300 in savings, not enough to cover rent, which was $1,500 a month, plus the late fees that were accumulating. I needed to find money fast. The next day, I pawned my laptop. The one I used for freelance work on weekends. I got $400 for it. I pawned a necklace my grandmother had given me. Another $200. Some old jewelry, $50. I gathered everything I could spare and took it to the pawn shop, piece by piece, day after day. It was humiliating, heartbreaking, but I scraped together just enough to pay my landlord and beg for more time on the late fees. I started applying for jobs. Any jobs, even ones outside my field, but every application asked if I was currently employed and why I was leaving. How do you explain an HR investigation? How do you explain identity theft without sounding like damaged goods? I got one interview at a small accounting firm. It went well until they asked about my current job situation. When I explained the identity theft, the unpaid leave, the HR investigation, I saw their expressions change. They called me 3 days later to say they had chosen another candidate. A week into my unpaid leave, I was served with legal papers, hand-delivered to my apartment by a process server. Travis was suing me in civil court for breach of verbal contract. He claimed I had agreed to cosign for his car and then backed out, causing him financial and emotional damages. He was seeking $5,000. His lawsuit listed witnesses who would testify that I had agreed to help him: my mother, my father, Aunt Paula, Uncle George. My entire family was going to testify against me in court. The court date was 3 weeks away. I called lawyers, free consultations. I explained my situation over and over. Every single one wanted a retainer. $3,000 up front, $5,000, amounts I didn't have. One lawyer, Brian, was kind enough to give me advice during our free 30-minute consultation. Verbal contracts can be valid in Texas. Your brother is claiming multiple witnesses heard you agree. You'll need to prove he's lying, which is hard to do when it's your word against theirs. Your best bet is to settle, offer him something small to make him go away. I don't have anything to offer him, I said. He's destroyed my finances. Then you'll have to represent yourself in court. But I'll be honest with you. Judges don't like family disputes. They often push hard for settlement. Be prepared for that. I hung up and added lawyer fees to the long list of things I couldn't afford. My situation was impossible. No job, no money. Facing a lawsuit. Credit destroyed. Family against me. And it was about to get even worse. 3 days later, I received another legal notice. This one made my hands shake so badly, I almost dropped the paper. Travis had filed for a temporary restraining order against me. He claimed I had been harassing him with false accusations of identity theft. He claimed I had threatened him. He claimed my behavior was causing him severe emotional distress, and he feared for his safety. His evidence included screenshots of text messages where I had confronted him angrily about the credit card fraud. Out of context, my messages did look aggressive. I had called him a thief. I had called him a liar. I had said he was destroying my life. He was using my own words against me. The restraining order hearing was scheduled for 5 days away. If the judge granted it, I would be legally barred from contacting Travis or coming within 500 feet of him. That meant I couldn't attend any family gatherings where he was present, which was all of them. Travis had found a way to legally achieve what my father had threatened: complete isolation from my family. I had also received my bank's response to my fraud claim: denied. They stated that since the proper authentication protocols were followed, they could not determine the withdrawals were unauthorized. I was responsible for the $600. My landlord, Mr. Patterson, called me that afternoon. He was a decent man in his 60s, always fair with me in the past. "Adelaide, I hate to do this, but you're now 15 days late on this month's rent. With late fees, you owe me $2,300. I need it within 5 days or I have to start eviction proceedings. Mr. Patterson, I'm dealing with identity theft. My accounts were drained. I'm trying to fix it. I'm truly sorry to hear that, but I have a mortgage to pay. I've given you as much time as I can. 5 days. He hung up gently, but the message was clear. I was about to lose my apartment. I sat on my floor surrounded by legal papers, pawn receipts, empty bank statements, and felt something inside me break. This was rock bottom. I had nothing left. I hadn't eaten a real meal in days. I was living on ramen noodles and whatever I could afford from the dollar store. I had lost 8 pounds. My clothes hung loose on my frame. I looked sick. My phone buzzed constantly with family group chat messages. Aunt Paula had created a new thread just to announce Thanksgiving plans. "Thanksgiving at our house this year. Travis will be there. Adelaide, you're welcome to come if you apologize to your brother and make things right." The messages that followed were all supportive of Travis. "Uncle George, Travis is such a good kid. He doesn't deserve this treatment." Cousin Brenda, "Family should support each other." "I don't understand Adelaide's problem." My mother, "We raised you better than this, Adelaide." I didn't respond. What was the point? Then a private message from Travis appeared. "Just drop everything, sis. Tell the bank to cancel the investigation. Don't show up to court. Let me have the restraining order. Then everything goes back to normal. We can all be a family again. I'll even forget about the money you owe me. The money I owe him. The absolute audacity." I was too tired to even be angry anymore. I just felt empty. I started packing my belongings into boxes, preparing to move. I didn't know where I would go. Maybe a cheap motel until I could figure something out. Maybe I would have to sleep in my car. I was sorting through old papers from my grandmother's estate, documents I had been storing since she died 4 years ago. Things I had never fully gone through because it hurt too much. Grandma Helen had been my favorite person in the world. Kind, funny, wise. She always believed in me. At the bottom of a box, I found a sealed envelope with my name on it in Grandma Helen's handwriting. "For Adelaide. Open when you need strength." My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside was a letter, written in her careful script. "My dearest Adelaide, if you're reading this, you must be going through something difficult. I want you to know how proud I am of you. You're strong, intelligent, and good-hearted. Never let anyone make you doubt that. I've set up something to help you build your future. When you turned 30, you should have received access to a trust fund I established for you when you were 10 years old. $50,000 to use for your education, a home, or whatever dreams you have. Your father is the trustee until you turn 30, then it transfers to you automatically. The account number is below. Use this money wisely, sweetheart, and remember, you're stronger than you know. Stand up for yourself. I'm so proud of you. All my love, Grandma, Helen." I read the letter 3 times, tears streaming down my face. A trust fund. $50,000. I was 32 now. I should have received this money 2 years ago, but I had never heard about it. My father had never mentioned it. I had never received a single dollar. I looked at the account number Grandma Helen had written. I didn't recognize the bank, but I could call them. With shaking hands, I searched for the bank's trust department online, found their number, called immediately. Trust Services, this is Amanda speaking. How can I help you? My name is Adelaide Patterson. I believe my grandmother established a trust for me. I have an account number. Can you tell me about it? Of course. Let me pull that up. There was typing. Yes, I see the account. Adelaide Patterson, beneficiary. Your grandmother Helen Patterson was the grantor. Your father, Richard Patterson, is listed as trustee until you turned 30, at which point, full control transferred to you. Can you tell me the current balance? More typing. Then a pause that made my stomach drop. The current balance is $7,042. $7,000? My voice came out as a whisper. The original amount was $50,000. Let me look at the transaction history. Long pause. I see regular withdrawals over the past 8 years, all authorized by the trustee. They're labeled as educational expenses, medical expenses, living expenses for the beneficiary. I never received any of that money. I was never in school after I graduated. I had health insurance. I was working full-time. My father was stealing from me. Amanda's voice became very careful. Ma'am, if you're alleging that the trustee misused funds, you'll need to file a formal complaint and possibly pursue legal action. I can send you the complete transaction records. Please, send everything. I also see a note here in the file. There was a request 2 years ago to close the account and transfer the remaining balance to your father. I personally denied that request because we needed your direct signature as the beneficiary. Your father was, and I quote from my notes, quite upset about that. The pieces fell into place, like a bomb going off in my mind. My father had been embezzling from my trust fund for years. He knew when I turned 30 the money would transfer to me. He tried to drain the account completely before that happened, but the bank stopped him. That's why he needed me quiet and compliant. That's why he supported Travis's harassment and lies. If I got lawyers involved for the identity theft, they might discover the missing trust money. They might start investigating my father too. This wasn't just Travis destroying my life. This was a conspiracy. My father and Travis working together to keep me distracted, broke, and too overwhelmed to look into my finances closely. My father had stolen $43,000 from me. I sat on my apartment floor, surrounded by boxes, holding my grandmother's letter, and for the first time in weeks, I didn't feel defeated. I felt angry. Real, burning, clarifying anger. They thought they had broken me. They thought I would give up, sign whatever papers they wanted, disappear quietly. They were wrong. Grandma Helen had given me a weapon. Documentation. Proof. A paper trail. I wasn't going to run. I wasn't going to hide. I was going to fight back. I spent my last $200 on something that felt reckless but necessary. I hired a document forensics expert to examine the authorization letter Travis had used for the credit card fraud. The expert, a retired FBI analyst named Walter, looked at the signature under magnification and confirmed what I suspected. This is a forgery. See this pressure point here, and the way the A loops? That's not how you write. The forger tried, but there are tells. The notary stamp is fake too. You can see pixelation around the edges. It was printed, not embossed. Can you testify to that in court? I can. My rate is $1,500 for a court appearance, plus my written report. I didn't have $1,500. I didn't have $15. But I took his business card anyway. At least I had confirmation. The restraining order hearing was the next morning. I dressed in my best work clothes, the same outfit I had worn to the diner intervention, and drove to the courthouse. Travis was there with our father and a lawyer. An actual lawyer in a suit, clearly paid for by my father. They looked confident, prepared. I was alone. The hearing was in front of a judge who looked tired and annoyed to be dealing with a family dispute. Judge Morrison, according to the nameplate on the bench. Travis's lawyer spoke first. He painted a picture of a troubled woman who was harassing his client with false accusations. He presented the text messages where I called Travis a thief and a liar. He had my father testify that I had been making wild accusations about Travis for months, that I was unstable and paranoid. My father sat in the witness box and lied under oath. He said I had always been jealous of Travis. He said I had a history of making things up. He said he was genuinely concerned for Travis's safety. Then it was my turn to defend myself. I stood up, no lawyer beside me, and tried to explain. I showed the credit card statements, the fraudulent account, the charges near Travis's apartment. Travis's lawyer held up the authorization letter. Your Honor, as you can see, Miss Patterson gave her brother written permission to use her information. This is a civil dispute about whether she had the right to revoke that permission, not a criminal matter. I never signed that letter, I said. It's forged. I have an expert who confirmed it. Do you have that expert here to testify? Judge Morrison asked. No, Your Honor. I couldn't afford to bring him today. The judge sighed. Then I have no expert testimony, just your word against the document. Mr. Patterson, does your client have any actual evidence that Miss Patterson poses a physical threat? Travis's lawyer hesitated. My client fears for his safety based on her aggressive communications. Has she threatened violence? Has she shown up at his home? Has she done anything beyond sending angry text messages? The pattern of harassment is concerning, Your Honor. Judge Morrison looked at the evidence again, then at me, then at Travis. I'm going to grant a temporary restraining order for 90 days. Miss Patterson, you are to have no contact with your brother and maintain a distance of 500 feet. After 90 days, we'll revisit this. But I'm warning both of you. I don't like family disputes in my courtroom. Work this out between yourselves. The gavel came down. I walked out of the courthouse in a daze. I now had a restraining order against me, legal documentation that made me look like the aggressor. Travis had won again. I drove back to my apartment to find another notice on my door. Final eviction warning. I had 48 hours to pay or vacate. I sat in my car in the parking lot and just breathed. In and out, trying not to completely fall apart. My phone rang. My mother. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. I hope you're happy, she said, her voice cold. Your father and Travis are both in distress over your behavior. You got a restraining order filed against you. Do you know how that makes our family look? Mom, Travis committed identity theft. Dad stole from my trust fund. I have proof. Stop lying, she actually yelled. I had never heard my mother yell before. You're making up these horrible stories because you're angry. Travis asked for help. You've lost your mind, Adelaide. Grandma Helen left me $50,000 in a trust. Dad was the trustee. There's only $7,000 left. He stole $43,000 from me. Your father would never do that. He used that money for family expenses, for raising you and your siblings. You benefited from that money. That's not how trust funds work, Mom. That money was specifically for me. Dad had no right to touch it. I'm not listening to this anymore. You're not welcome at Thanksgiving. You're not welcome at any family gathering until you apologize to your father and your brother and get help for whatever is wrong with you. She hung up. I sat there holding my phone, and something inside me just went numb. My own mother had chosen to believe my father's lies over her daughter's documented proof. That evening, as I was packing more boxes, getting ready to move to whatever cheap motel I could afford, my phone buzzed with a message from someone I hadn't heard from in a while. My younger sister, Emily. She was 24, still living at home with our parents, always quiet and careful not to make waves in the family. Adelaide, I need to talk to you. Alone. Please, can we meet? I stared at the message. Was this another trap? Another family member sent to manipulate me? But something in the message felt different. Urgent. Genuine. When and where? I typed back. Tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock. The coffee shop on Riverside Drive. The one far from home. Please come. I believe you. Those last 3 words made me cry. Someone believed me. I typed back, I'll be there. Maybe, just maybe, I wasn't completely alone after all. I barely slept that night. I kept wondering if Emily's message was real or if this was another setup, but I had to take the chance. I needed an ally. I needed someone in my family to hear the truth. The coffee shop on Riverside Drive was 30 minutes from my apartment, in a part of town where we were unlikely to run into anyone from the family. I got there 15 minutes early and sat in a corner booth where I could see the door. Emily arrived exactly at 9. She looked nervous, her eyes darting around the parking lot before she came inside. She was wearing a hoodie and sunglasses, even though it wasn't that sunny, like she was trying to hide. She slid into the booth across from me and pulled off the sunglasses. Her eyes were red, like she had been crying. "Thank you for coming," she said quietly. "Emily, what's going on?" She glanced around again, making sure no one was listening. "I'm so sorry I didn't speak up sooner. I was scared of Dad. I still live at home and I didn't know what he would do if I defended you." "It's okay," I said, even though it wasn't, not really. But Emily was here now, and that mattered. She reached into her bag and pulled out her phone. "I've been suspicious of Travis for a while now. He never works, but he always has money. Dad gives him cash all the time. I noticed it, but I didn't say anything." She looked down at her phone, her hands shaking. "Last week, after the restraining order hearing, I went through Dad's home office. He keeps everything locked up usually, but he left it open that day. I think he was distracted. Emily, if Dad finds out you went through his things, I don't care anymore." Her voice was stronger now. "I found a file. It was labeled Trusts and Estates. Inside were documents about your trust fund from Grandma Helen. And Adelaide, there was another one. For me." My heart stopped. "What?" "Grandma Helen set up a trust for me too. $30,000. I'm supposed to get access when I turn 25 next year." Tears started running down her face. "But the balance is almost zero. $700 left. Dad has been stealing from my trust too." I reached across the table and grabbed her hand. "Oh, Emily, there's more." She started swiping through photos on her phone. "I took pictures of everything before I left. Look." She showed me photos of trust statements, withdrawal records, and then something that made my blood run cold. A notebook, handwritten pages with passwords and account information, including my online banking password. "This is Dad's handwriting," Emily said. "He wrote down your passwords. And look at this." She swiped to more photos, screenshots of text messages between our father and Travis. I read them with growing horror. "Travis, she's getting suspicious. We need to distract her." "Dad, I'll back you up on the car thing. Make her look bad to the family." "Travis, what if she doesn't break?" "Dad, then we go harder. Make her too busy defending herself to look into the finances." "Travis, the credit card is almost maxed. Should I open another one?" "Dad, be careful. Don't leave obvious trails." The messages were dated from 3 months ago. This had been planned. A conspiracy to keep me distracted and discredited while they stole from me. "There are more messages," Emily said, swiping through. "They talk about the fake debt collector call to your work. Travis did that. Dad told him to." I felt like I couldn't breathe. My own father had orchestrated the destruction of my career, my reputation, my life. "Emily, I need these photos. Can you send them to me?" "Already did. They're in your email. Every single one." She wiped her eyes. "I'm so sorry, Adelaide. I should have said something sooner. I should have stood up for you." "You're standing up for me now. That's what matters." I pulled out my own phone. "I'm sending these to my lawyer and to the police detective who's been handling my case." "I'll testify," Emily said firmly. "In court, to the police, wherever. I'll tell them everything. Dad and Travis did this together. They've been stealing from both of us." I quickly forwarded all the photos to Margaret Whitmore, the lawyer who had agreed to take my trust case on contingency, and to Detective Sarah Morrison. Within an hour, Margaret called me back. "Adelaide, this changes everything. We have documented conspiracy to commit fraud. I'm amending the lawsuit to include Travis as a co-defendant. And with these text messages admitting to the identity theft, the police will have to take action." "What about the restraining order?" "Once I present this evidence to the judge, that restraining order will be vacated. It was obtained through fraud and perjury. Your father lied under oath. Detective Morrison called next. Miss Patterson, I'm reviewing the evidence your sister provided. This is substantial. I'm presenting this to the district attorney today. We'll be moving forward with criminal charges against both your father and brother. How long will that take? Fast. With this kind of documentation, we can get warrants within 48 hours. Things started moving faster than I ever imagined possible. Margaret filed an emergency motion to freeze all my father's assets and access the remaining trust funds for my immediate needs. A judge reviewed the evidence and granted it the same day. By that evening, I had access to the $7,000 remaining in my trust. It wasn't much, but it was enough to pay my rent, move out of the motel I had been planning to live in, and buy groceries, real food. I cried in the grocery store aisle when I was able to buy fresh vegetables and meat. 2 days later, Detective Morrison got her warrants. Police arrested my father at his home and Travis at his apartment. Both were charged with multiple counts of felony embezzlement, identity theft, and fraud. My father faced additional charges of breach of fiduciary duty and perjury. My mother called me, hysterical. How could you do this? Your father and Travis are in jail. They did this to themselves, Mom. They committed crimes, multiple crimes, for years. But they're family. Family doesn't steal from each other. Family doesn't systematically destroy each other. They made their choices. She started crying. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know about the money. Your father told me he was using it for family expenses. Did you know about the identity theft? The fake debt collector calls? She went quiet. Travis said he was just trying to teach you a lesson about family loyalty. A lesson? Mom, he tried to get me fired from my job. He drained my bank account. He sued me for money I didn't owe. That's not a lesson. That's abuse. I don't know what to believe anymore. She sounded small, broken. Believe the evidence, Mom. Believe the text messages. Believe the bank records. All of it is documented. She hung up without saying goodbye. Margaret worked fast on the civil case. With the criminal charges filed, my father's lawyer advised him to settle. Fighting both criminal and civil cases was too expensive, and the evidence was overwhelming. My father agreed to pay full restitution for the embezzled trust money. $43,000 plus interest. His house was put up for sale to cover it. Emily's trust would be repaid too. Travis pleaded guilty to identity theft and fraud charges in exchange for a lighter sentence. He was sentenced to 18 months in prison and 5 years of probation. He had to pay restitution for the credit card fraud. My father was convicted on all counts. The judge was not sympathetic. Embezzling from your own daughter's trust fund, orchestrating identity theft, perjuring yourself in court. He was sentenced to 3 years in prison, though he would likely serve about 18 months with good behavior. The restraining order against me was vacated immediately once the judge saw the evidence of fraud and perjury. I was legally free to go anywhere, do anything. My employer called me back. Sharon from HR apologized profusely. We had no idea the extent of what you were dealing with. We'd like to offer you your position back, with back pay for the time you were on leave. I went back to work. My coworkers were sympathetic once they learned the truth. The rumors about me embezzling or having financial problems disappeared. If anything, people respected me more for surviving what my family had put me through. Over the next few months, I received restitution payments from my father's seized assets. He had to sell the house he and my mother had lived in for 30 years. My mother filed for divorce while he was in prison. She couldn't stay married to someone who had lied to her for so long, who had stolen from their own children. My mother reached out to me eventually. We met for coffee, and she cried and apologized for hours. I should have listened to you. I should have believed you. I was manipulated, but that's not an excuse. I failed you as a mother. I forgave her, but I kept boundaries. We had lunch once a month. We talked on the phone occasionally, but the relationship would never be what it was. Trust, once broken that completely, is hard to rebuild. Emily moved out of my parents' house and stayed with me for a few months while she got on her feet. We became closer than we had ever been. She was my real family now. The person who stood by me when it mattered most. Aunt Paula and Uncle George both called to apologize. They had been lied to by my father and Travis, manipulated into believing I was the problem. I accepted their apologies, but I didn't forget. They had been so quick to judge me without hearing my side. Some family members never apologized. They just quietly stopped talking about it. I cut them off completely. I didn't need people in my life who would turn on me so easily. Travis wrote me a letter from prison. It was 5 pages long, full of excuses and self-pity. He blamed our father for manipulating him. He said he was sorry, but it didn't feel genuine. It felt like he was sorry he got caught. I never responded. After he was released, he moved to another state. I never saw him or spoke to him again. My father never apologized. Not once. Even after everything, he maintained that he had been trying to help the family, that he had a right to that money, because he raised me. When he was released from prison, he went to live with his sister and worked a minimum wage job at a hardware store. I had no contact with him. As far as I was concerned, he was a stranger who happened to share my DNA. 3 years later, my life looked completely different. I had rebuilt my credit. It took time, but I got my score back up. I bought a small house with the money from the trust restitution. Nothing fancy, but it was mine. 2 bedrooms, a little yard, in a quiet neighborhood. I got promoted at work to senior accountant. My boss appreciated my attention to detail and my integrity. The fact that I had exposed fraud in my own family showed I had strong ethical standards. I started dating someone I met through a friend. His name was Marcus, and he was kind, patient, and respectful. He knew my whole story, and he never judged me for it. He just supported me. I began volunteering at a community center, teaching financial literacy classes to young adults. I wanted to help people understand their rights, how to protect themselves, how to spot financial abuse. I wanted to prevent others from going through what I went through. I established a small scholarship fund in Grandma Helen's name. Every year, I gave $2,000 to a young woman in my community who was pursuing a degree in accounting or finance. It was my way of honoring my grandmother's memory and her belief in me. Emily and I stayed close. She got her trust money when she turned 25, used it to finish her degree, and got a good job as a teacher. We had dinner together every week. She was my real sister, the one who had proven her love when it mattered. I thought about everything I had learned through this nightmare. About family, about trust, about standing up for yourself. I learned that family is not defined by blood. It's defined by love, respect, and trust. The people who truly love you will listen to your side of the story. They will believe you when you present evidence. They won't turn on you based on lies. I learned that standing up for yourself is not selfish. It's necessary. For so long I had been taught that family came first, that you forgive anything, that blood is thicker than water. But that's not true. Respect is more important than blood. Integrity is more important than keeping the peace. I learned that sometimes the people who are supposed to protect you are the ones who hurt you most, and when that happens, you have to protect yourself. Even if it means walking away from everyone you've ever known. I learned that the hardest thing to do is often the right thing. Filing charges against my own father and brother was the hardest decision I ever made. But it was also the right decision. They needed to face consequences. I needed to stand up for myself. Most importantly, I learned what Grandma Helen meant in her letter. Stand up for yourself. Be strong. Don't let anyone make you doubt your worth. I thought about Grandma Helen often. I wish she could see me now, living in my own house, thriving in my career, surrounded by people who genuinely cared about me. I think she would be proud. I sat on my back porch one evening, watching the sunset, holding a cup of coffee, and felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. Real, deep peace. I had lost a family that never truly valued me, but I found myself. I found my strength. I found my voice, and I built a new life, a better life, with people who actually loved me. Looking back, I wouldn't change anything. Yes, it was painful. Yes, it was the hardest thing I ever went through, but it taught me who I really was. It showed me what I was capable of surviving. It proved that I was stronger than I ever knew. I lost a family that was toxic and destructive, but I gained something far more valuable: self-respect, independence, peace. The knowledge that I could stand up for myself and win. and that's worth more than anything. Now I want to ask you something. Have you ever had to stand up to family members who were treating you unfairly? How did you find the strength to do it? Share your story in the comments below. Your experience might help someone else who's going through something similar. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button. It helps more people find these stories and know they're not alone in their struggles. And if you're not already subscribed, please subscribe to this channel. I share stories about overcoming family challenges, finding strength in difficult times, and building better lives. You don't want to miss future stories. Finally, if you know someone who needs to hear this message, someone who's dealing with toxic family dynamics or feeling pressured to accept mistreatment from relatives, please share this video with them. Sometimes we need to hear other people's stories to find the courage to change our own situations. Thank you so much for listening to my story. I hope it brought you some comfort, some inspiration, or at least the knowledge that you're not alone in whatever you're facing. Remember, standing up for yourself is not selfish, it's self-preservation. You deserve respect, honesty, and love. And if the people in your life can't give you those things, it's okay to walk away and find people who will. Take care of yourselves, be strong, and never let anyone make you doubt your worth. Until next time,